Hello everybody and welcome to episode 21 of Competitive Magic with the Carnies. I'm your host from Italy, Andrea Mengucci, and joining me we have Javier Dominguez from Spain.
Hello everyone.
And Anthony Lee from Australia.
Hola.
Alright Carnies, we're back together. I went this weekend in Trieste, Italy, the northern part of Italy. And I played some Pauper Modern. It was a 400 people event, which got me the qualifications to not the next one, the one after, regional championship. It's going to happen in Athens, Greece, for us in Europe. And pretty excited. What's the format in that one? Is it Pioneer, right?
It's Pioneer, yep.
I thought you were qualified already for Athens, but you were not?
Yeah, I was, but I
Okay.
wanted to say I won something of the competitive Magic circuit.
Okay, I was worried for a second.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring up the MPL privilege that still carries over. But anyway.
You didn't get the trophy, but it was good, right?
What did you
We
say?
expected you to take the trophy down, but still like a good weekend.
Well, considering that I was at some point 4-3 and the cut was, in order to make the 2 was 7-2, I thought I was out, but turns out that it's 7-2 or top 64, and my breakers were insane because one of my opponents went 9-0, 400 of 4 other my opponents made day 2, so I just went 6-3 and finished in the top 64, good enough to make day 2.
Wow, that's incredible. Andrea Mengucci getting in on breakers. That's a new story.
Never happened before.
Wow.
But see, like, on you can also say I got unlucky because on round 4 I played against a guy that ended up being 9-0. So, I could have just played against the worst player.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That does sound like your day was very unlucky, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing though, so you had this tournament. First of all, like, did you eat something like particularly good, or was it just fine?
Oh no, of course. I made sure to book 2 reservations to some nice restaurants that they suggested to us. One was actually in, because Trieste is at the border, so we went to a place, and actually our phone sent us messages of like "Welcome to Slovenia,"
okay.
And we had to turn off the internet, like change the roaming as if we were abroad, basically. So that was
that's cool.
So we ate fried frogs as starters, which is a thing I never eat before.
Like frogs, whole frogs? Are they large?
No, just chicken. Sorry, not chicken, but legs. How do you say legs?
Okay.
Like chicken wing.
Yeah, like chicken wings.
No, I guess
like
chicken frog
sticks.
Yeah, it was basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, frogs don't have wings, right?
No, not that I know.
Usually not, no.
Yeah, so it was just a leg of a frog, basically.
Was it good?
Which tasted exactly like chicken. Like, I swear, it was the same.
Would you recommend it?
Yeah, I mean,
if you like chicken,
it's something that I can say. I probably will not eat frogs that often in my life, so I can say that I had that experience.
Cool.
And but yeah, that was definitely one of the good thing. But the event itself was really good. Like, the location was huge. The coverage is, I don't know if you got a chance to catch it, but towards the end it had about 2,000 views. So a lot of people were watching the coverage, I feel like.
No, I mean, yeah, that's pretty good.
And they had these how do you say, like they put the coverage on the screen of the location, so people were just watching the coverage, just sitting down in the chairs.
Yep.
It felt like a very good night. You had another room with side events and vendors. There weren't that many people, so I think that there could be definitely way more people in the hall, but I think that those who went had a very nice experience overall.
I'm glad. I mean, that I heard a lot of good feedback around the Twitter, whatever.
To the tournament itself, again, I went 6-3 on day 1. I was playing my Murktide list, which I guess we can talk about it later. And then on day 2 is when I got kind of like the fire on. I went 5-1, losing to the eventual winner only on a very, 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 very cool match where, Team Rhinos versus Murktide is very close. We can talk about that matchup a little bit, Javier, since I know you've been playing some Rhinos. How do you feel the matchup is between Team of Rhinos and Murktide?
Well, that's a little bit of a tricky question because what I think is basically what you have told me. It feels, I mean, like Blue Red Murktide is just ahead, right? Just like every time Blue Red Murktide loses, it feels like it had to malfunction at some point. I'm not talking about missing the second land drop, but just like, you draw like one too many lands or one too many counter spells that are sometimes clunky or like enough creatures. Like if they draw the right mix, I feel like Rhinos is like easily going to be outpowered. But of course, Rhinos I think is I think Rhinos is not a great deck by itself, but it's very good at beating people with medium hands. So it's basically an aggro deck where if you like have like only one creature and they remove it, then the Rhinos will kill you. And I think that's, I think Rhinos is the type of deck where if you think your deck is going to do well, then you will beat it. But then you sit down and you play 10 matches and you lose like 5, right? And you're like, well, my deck was supposed to beat Rhinos. And I think that's the situation with Murktide. I assume it will be like 60-40 or something. But still like nothing. Like I don't think many decks can actually crush Rhinos because of that. Like the destruction they have, like the interaction is just like so broad. Like the force negations, bottom or whatever, that if you just mulligan or whatever, or something like that, they're like so stable at doing their thing that they just get you.
Yeah, so I find recently, I kind of want to say that I found out that almost playing against Murktide, you have a way to exploit them. You have a way to exploit their, counterspell turn where they just leave mana up for counterspell. You don't want to play anything into that. And Rhino has a lot of flash creatures, instant speed threats and etc. to be able to do that. So I think if the Team of Rhinos player know how to time their spell correctly, they'll be able to maybe get on top of a Blue Red Murktide, which is generally favored mostly because of the many one-mana interaction and the 3 engineered explosives and Ledger Shredder and so on.
Yeah, I wonder though if Living End is like better in that situation. But that's something I have an idea. Like, what do you think?
Yeah. I as I told you yesterday, Living End is a deck that I think it's well positioned right now because well, simply like against Rhinos, you can just tap out because you have the engineered explosives that bails you out, or even just Ledger Shredder gets pumped, or you just annully heat a couple of tokens and etc. But against Living End, you just can't do that. Because if there is a Living End, you lose. So I feel like players are adjusting to Rhinos and maybe are a little bit softer to Living End. Like, if, for example, Mattia Rizzi, who made the top 8, very good player with Murktide, he had 2 main deck spells near. And those maybe could have been, other type of counterspell. He does have an exceptional cyber for Living End. So his example is kind of maybe not the best one. But overall, I think that people are adjusting to Rhinos more so than Cascade in general. So I think that Murktide can definitely beat the matchup, but you need to respect it well. And right now, I think that the sideboards are respecting well Rhinos.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. I wonder if Living End is where we're going forward after this. Who knows?
I have to say, I didn't see, I swear, we're talking about this at some point. We've never seen any Living End. Like, I've seen 0 Living End in the whole weekend, not even in the side events.
Well, that's good for Living End, right? Like, that's means like it's maybe a right day to actually play it. Actually play the deck.
Yeah. Oh, Anthony, by the way, today I was streaming and a person chatted and was, are you going to convince Anthony to like Modern?
What? Yeah, go on.
and I answered, only Wizards can convince Anthony to play any format.
Yes, that is very much the case, I think. Although, it would help if I don't know. I don't really see why it would be about convincing me. Either I like it or I don't, right? It's not really I don't really understand the question.
It was just a Twitch chat question. You don't have to put too much thoughts into a question.
I don't mind. I would like to answer the question, but I just don't really understand it. But did any of the decks that you see in Modern right now sparks you joy? Spark joy? Wow, that's asking for a lot of endorsement. I don't know. I don't think so. I kind of like this. This person who seems very unfortunate. They were 9th, the only person at 11-3-1 to miss the 5-color Scapeshift deck. I guess it's cool that deck is back.
Can Can you pronounce his name? Do you know how to pronounce such name?
Well, the first one's easy. That one's VEEDEO.
Okay, VEEDEO with a magic card. Tomasicchio.
Okay.
Almost.
Yeah, C and H make the sound as a K in Italian.
VEEDEO. All right.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I know that guy because he did well in the online tournament, and I neck deck him, and then I 5-0'd with this deck on a league, and I was not impressed with his deck, but he got the job. He almost top 8'd.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one to miss on that record.
He was next to me in the last round.
Yeah,
pretty convincing win.
Condolences to him, because that always sucks. I mean, it's objectively a good result, and still somehow feels bad, which is the saddest of circumstances. But I don't know. Maybe he feels alright about it.
the way he won was so cool because his opponent was playing hammer and had a lethal hammer, and he had just an island untapped, but he had Dried of the Elysian Grove in play, so he played Leyline Binding to break it. But he just had an island untapped, so that was a pretty good win. Because you just don't play around anything. If you're hammer, you just jam everything because there's just one island up, and boom, Leyline Binding. So that was a cool last play from him.
They also play 3 Leyline Binding. That's a strange number. Often Binding is a 4 off, and.
Yeah, so the reason why this list was playing a more ending is because you want to have... I think we've already talked about this on the podcast. It's in Modern, you need to build your deck to have answers to Ragavan on the draw.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you see 4 Prismatic Ending and 3 Leyline Binding, because Leyline Binding is an answer to Ragavan only on the play.
Yeah, you're right.
That's important. Remember that... I always say to build your deck to be just the best possible on the draw, because... That's where I think that on the play you're naturally favorite in Magic. But anyway, speaking of this, the top 8 was actually funny. That the 4 people who won the arrow, so the 4 people who were on the play, actually they all lost. So Simon Nielsen on Mono White Hammer, Ritzel Murktide, Sasha Schwartz. By the way, he's a German player who won the challenge with Breach before it was popular. So he's kind of like the one that popularized the archetype. So he just run the tables at the paper tournament as well.
With the same 75 also from the Mogs showcase. It's exactly the same 75, so not even a change. And he just went the deck is about perfect, just go.
That's quite a pair of names at the top of the standings, isn't it? Simon Nielsen and Mattia Rizzi. I mean, very strong players. Not surprising to see them ahead.
Yeah, the top 8 with 8 different decks. We have Prowess, we have 5 Color Creativity, which notably has 3 Sarah's Emissary in the sideboard. He said that he likes to do the switch with Archon of Cruelty against Veil of Summer or Orvar. Not sure how you know that your opponent is going to have Orvar, but I guess that might work.
You top 8 and then you know.
Yeah. Or maybe it's an open deck listing. I don't know. The tournaments of Melee,
No, it was closed deck list.
Oh, okay. Well, that seems like all the decks that were interesting in this top 8. So let's move on to the next thing very quickly because there's nothing else for us to talk about in this top 8. So.
Whoa! I know where you're going,
but
on 6th place we have Mono Blue Merfolk, one of the fans' favorite, one of the favorite decks
Mono
of the
Blue,
cards.
Mono Blue Merfolk, who actually lost the final.
Yeah.
He went all the way to the final.
Such a great deck. Remember what you guys thought I was kidding, saying it was good? Here we are, a solid tier 2 once again.
Yeah. You were saying he was better than Blue Murktide though at the time.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good deck. I don't think it's better than Murte, but I think it's better than other decks like, I don't know, Tron or whatever, Burn and this kind of decks. There are solid tier 2s as well. I think this one is better.
Yeah. Mono Blue Merfolk gets the job done. Almost loses the final. Although, I always feel like I don't like Merfolk too much, so I'll remain a hater despite the results tell me otherwise.
Fine. We agree on something, Mengu. How cool is that?
Yeah, that's you two finally agree. That's I'm kind of worried now.
It's a special occasion. To the Twitch chatter out there who asked, if I would ever like modern. Well, at least this is step 1. Me and Mengu have to agree on something before he can convince me of his absurd position. So this is good. This is progress.
Yeah, then we see 5 Color Zoo also top 8. I remember when we talked about
that's
what
nice.
was the... what was the best version of Zoo. I remember saying that to me this was the best version, the one with Wanda Cattle, Nishova Brawler. In this case, Manuel Danninger also plays Tarmogoyf.
Do you know what I love the most? Yeah. I love that there's 3 Nishoba Brawler and 2 Tarmogoyf, which really seems like a giant middle finger to Tarmogoyf fans across the world. It's like, this uncommon from Dominaria, it's better than Tarmogoyf. 3 Nishoba Brawler, 2 Tarmogoyf. It's...
But it is, right? Like it is.
I agree it is. I think it absolutely is. But I think it's just so funny to see on a deck list. Like, it's random uncommon.
The biggest drawback to Nishoba Brawler is that it dies to Bolt. Yeah. But this deck already kind of dies to Bolt.
I mean, you can't... Like, you're not really trying to dodge removal with this deck that much. Except maybe sort of Silent Draco, sort of. But, I think... Yeah, it's...
I feel like one draw to this kind of deck is the sideboard is very strong. Like,
you could play anything, right?
Yeah, like you totally just improve post sideboard. Like, you play all the colors, right? And just like... just have a proactive deck that doesn't need to cyber much, so you can just play like it's mono super hate cards.
Just all the high impact cards.
Yeah, it's all.
Look at it. This is just like the best sideboard card.
Yeah, like the sideboard
you can find in a binder.
Yeah, it's Teferi, Hidetsu, Consume Soul, Hashbringer, Amort Ego, Wear and Tear, Fluster, Rest in Peace. Like if you sideboard a card in for a matchup, chances are the card's like the best card in the format against that deck. And I think that's
I like this
partially
deck.
why
Okay, this one sparks joy. This one sparks joy.
You can play anything, yet you chose a Mordigo, though.
I mean, Mordigo is very good if you play...
Some decks are flat out dead to it, right? Like
exactly. Like Jammoth or whatever, you play against Creativity against Jammoth. I mean, Mordigo is like a nightmare. You just don't beat those cards.
Yeah.
Timurainos, Living End, like Cascades. Like, those cards are just, like, extremely powerful. And if you play, with Hammer, Wear and Tear is like a nightmare. I mean, I think the sideboard is why this deck might just win so much. Slash P is so good.
So, in the 24th place, we see another 5-color Zoo. It is Riccardo Picciafuochi, which is an Italian old-school player. And he was also playing Zoo. Yeah, and he was playing 4 Tarmogoyf in the sideboard. Presumably to switch with Nishoba Brawler against Murktide or Lightning decks in general, I'm gonna say.
So, these decks are very similar, but I like the top 8 one way more, just because I think this sideboard is kind of weaker. Like, it less spread. It has, like... like 4 Tarmogoyfs, which are like low impact, even if they're good sometimes. And also 4 consumes all, which I understand are like your plan, but it's like same of the same effect. Like it's a lot of the same effect. And I think I like the top 8 one way more in terms of like how it's built. Even though the decks are obviously similar, I think the other one is better.
Yeah, and then we find another Zoo deck in the top 20. So yeah, I remember seeing a couple of Zoo decks at the top table for sure. And it's nice because, Zoo, it's the... I guess Merfolk as well as an aggro deck and prowess. Yeah, I would say that recently they printed a lot of cards that made these aggressive decks better, because Modern was a little bit like either mid-range or combo. Was lacking a true aggro deck, and Zoo with the 4 Treble Flames definitely taking the spot of the aggro deck here.
I think about this, it's not about the card. I think the banning of Jordan actually is what made this happen. Like this the 4-color sub decks with Omnath Solitude, I think those decks actually sandwiched the aggro decks a lot, because it was like bold, Prismatic Ending, Solitude, Omnath, and just like a bunch of interaction. And I think since the deck is out, I think now we have space for decks like this to be better. I'm on that impression. Do you agree?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yorion definitely changed a lot. There were still some elementals were still popular. Played against 2 of them, and they were up there in the percentages, with one in the top 8 and one in the top 25. Sorry, top 16 and one top 25. We can talk about the 11th place.
Wow, such a good deck. I love this deck.
Yeah, it's a very well built.
So
deck.
very well tuned.
I think they just kind of copied what they saw on Twitter, so I'm not that interested in it really.
All right, in the 11th place we have Andrea Mengucci, which is me, playing Blue Red Murktide. We can talk about a little bit of the deck choices I went through here. As we said on the podcast last time, we wanted to put some Breach in Murktide, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of went blind. I didn't get the chance to test it, but I cut 1 Murktide for 1 Breach.
That's scientific.
Like, how did you like it? Do you think it was right? We'll do it again. I think we want to know.
All right, so I have some interesting scenarios with this card, because the floor. So like the worst case scenario is when you have, I mean, compared to Murktide, I guess, it's when you have Breach and your graveyard is tiny because your opponent just like, I don't know, Enduranced you, or they just reset your graveyard. And with Murktide, you can, you know, fetch, pay 4 mana and play Murktide as a 4/4. Whereas Breach is just straight up a dead card in that spot. And that scenario happened. I played against a couple of main deck Endurance, and actually it happened. It just had a Breach that was just very bad because, well, I didn't have any graveyard, or they just killed my channeler, etc. So, especially the way I sideboarded with this deck, which was to often take out channelers, I just didn't like it. I next time I'm playing this deck, I'll definitely play just straight up Murktide Regents.
Okay.
That's kind of what we expected.
That's good to know. I mean, yeah, but you can only learn these things if you try, and you know.
Yeah.
So it's good to know. I will also, if I will net deck use.
Okay, two more scenarios that were interesting and worth noting. One time I put an Ember in play. I was playing Jeskai Breach, and I just went Underworld Breach Unholy Heat. So just like
Snap
what's
Custom
the card? No, it's not Custom Age. The sorcery that gives flashback, like
Past in Flames.
Whatever.
No, I don't know.
From Vintage,
it's like blue surveil something and then give
Mission
flashback.
Briefing. Okay,
Mission Briefing.
I got it.
Mission Briefing. Yeah, exactly. I remember that card saw some play at some point. Yeah,
No,
I was
I didn't.
using a Mission Briefing there.
Oh.
Or another spot against Lamentos where I dug, like, I don't know, I want to say like 20 or 30 cards in my deck and didn't see a single Mishra's Bubble. So I played Breach with 2 mana up and just didn't find it, with the lands to be played. And I just passed the turn with like 10 cards in my graveyard, which, could have been 3 or 4 cards if I had found a bubble. So I would say that, Underworld Breach definitely gets very good if you draw a bubble, and it's, not so good if you don't, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I like the deck a lot. I would definitely play it again if I had another Modern tournament. Can't recommend it more. Also, it's just so much fun. Like, it's really fun. It's really fun.
It's good magic, huh? I like it a lot. Also, the play style. This is like dynamic games, interaction, but also tempo, card advantage. It has all the angles. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I want to talk about one last deck here. It's the control deck. So Riccardo Biava is a very famous control player in Italy, and he got to the 12th place. And his list is so much different than the other control deck I want to talk to you about.
Oh.
So this blue-white control deck plays 4 Subtlety in the main deck.
8 Force
it's
of
not
Wills.
a card I've ever seen control before.
8 Force of Wills is the name of his deck, right? This Force of Will and plus walkers, just to try to make them, to make the Force of Will count.
So you should use a Force 3 for creature.
Yeah.
And so you have Counter Spark Matchup, you have 4 copies of Super Verdict, 4 Fire and Ice. Yeah, it was. It's definitely an interesting list, very round. The other control deck I want to talk to you about is the banned control deck that Raya Suleiman won the NRG Invitational. There was this I believe there were 8, maybe might have been 16 players who qualified, and this weekend they had the final. It was Modern and Pioneer. And he got the job done playing band control in Modern and Rakdos in Pioneer.
He covered all the colors. Beautiful balance.
Oh, wow, that's true. I didn't think about it. That's cool.
Go on. Well, it's not a useful observation. It's just cute. Go on.
And he was playing this band deck, which consisted of a card that I've never seen before, or rather, never read before. It is Broker's Charm. Anthony, you know every Magic card in the world. Do you know what this does?
I don't know if I know every Magic card in the world, but I did play some new Capenna draft, so I do know Broker's Charm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's destroy target enchantment, draw 2 cards, and it's like a one-sided fight after giving +1 power. I don't know what card that's like.
So it target creatures you control gets +1/+0, and it deals damage to a target creature or planeswalker. So you can use this to pump your solitude and deal 4 damage to a planeswalker.
Yeah.
I don't know if
don't know what card. I guess it's its own card. Yeah, like a bit like Rabbit Bright.
Yeah, you basically use this as an Esper Charm, so to blow up Urza's Saga, Leyline Binding, Blood Moon, I guess, if you float mana and cast this first.
I mean, you can also do if you have Solitude, you can also use these as kill a creature, gain 4 life. I'm pretty sure the mode's also not completely relevant because the interaction with Lifelink. You can do it, even if you pitch it, you can do it also. With evolve and stuff.
That's true. That's very cool.
I think this is a good card. I mean, this doesn't sound like a bad card. With binding Mengu, all around.
Hidden mode is obviously that you can pitch it to the main deck subtlety, the main deck solitude, and the 4 sideboarded endurance, which I think it's one of the strength of the deck, endurance.
Maybe it's kind of funny because we barely even know what this card does, or maybe we don't even have to. You just stop reading at the mana cost. Yeah, that's good enough. Pitches to everything. Don't really care what it does. Maybe it'll do something every now and then.
It draws 2 cards, but it's also like blue-white. This is not that much different from the Italian control deck, but this is like blue-white splashing endurance. Like they're literally endurance is so good against the blue-red decks or whatever. Then I'm fully willing to splash for it.
Doesn't cost you that much in modern. To splash. Yeah.
Today I played this deck on a league on my stream, and I was impressed. This deck felt very good against blue-red. Felt super good against rhinos. I just couldn't lose that match. I ended up I went for 1 loss to elementals, but I really just beat all the top decks of the format. And you have so many decent chance for Urza Saga. You have sideboard Ray of Revelation.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you have March. You have Wear Tear. I just feel like this deck is very good in the against the top tier decks.
Yeah, this is the classic deck where you're gonna be the best decks, but then if you play against Tron, you're just like gonna get destroyed. This seems like this kind of deck.
So that's like a great choice for this type of invitational event, right? Where there's only 16 players and they're probably all playing real decks. So it's very good metagame by Roger Suleiman.
Yeah, I saw yesterday a tweet by Anzi D saying a control deck will dominate any 2 decks format.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because you could be pre-boarded against any specific deck. Like so many decks, even good decks, they have holes, right? So then they can be exploited, particularly game 1. So if you have a control deck that does that game 1, you can probably have a good matchup against any single deck you're targeting, maybe even 2, but not like 10 or even 5. So I think that's a fair point.
The modern problem is that the metagame is going to have like 50 decks on day 1. So
no, most formats have more. Even like I say, whatever now, which is like what you could say it's only Delver and Initiative. It actually has more decks. Like there's always like a fair percentage of like Reanimator, Storm, or whatever. Like there, very rarely there's like only like 2 decks in tournaments. I don't know if like there aren't like Oko, when Oko was there, like
there was still was like that still wasn't even
Oko.
That,
it was only Oko and Feel of the Dead, right? I think, but that's the only one that comes to mind. Like it's rare for a format to have like only one day or 2 decks.
I mean, I remember PT Oko, the one in Richmond, where I played my anti-Oko deck, which also had Oko, and I played against 4 non-Oko decks.
Yeah, like that's just how.
Well, that was a 70% Oko deck, so that was kind of like unlucky.
Yeah,
I have to say. Yeah, like that time, you like I'm pretty sure someone just played against Oko all the tournament.
But that also like is more reflective of specifically like pro level events where people are more likely to just play the best decks. Like
absolutely,
not everybody is motivated the same way, especially at bigger events or local events. So. I think this is not necessarily applicable to, a lot of people. I think.
This was an invitational. I'm assuming like this was invitational. Sure. Someone big, so I'm pretty sure they were all trying to,
exactly.
win,
but I mean, like,
best,
someone should really think about this, like the context of the tournament for which they're choosing a deck.
Yeah,
this matters
absolutely.
a lot.
It does.
Yeah, my matchups in the tournament in the 15 rounds, I only played against 1 Blue-Red Murktide at the very end. That was very unusual because Murktide was 22% of day 2 and it was 14% of day 1, so it was definitely a very popular deck.
Yeah, wow.
I played against 5 Teamer Rhinos, which was not as popular. That was like maybe 10%. So I mean,
don't metagame too much, I guess, because I don't know.
Yeah. For sure.
For these big events, maybe.
On the other side of the ocean, there was another big event happening in where was this? In New Jersey, SCG New Jersey 20K, which had more players than Trieste. It had 430 players, so slightly more players. And the winner was Izzet Prowess. Can you believe it?
I mean,
I guess I
also had a top 8 in the Italian it also had one top in Italy. Like it seems like the deck is just like good, right? I mean, at least like very functional.
Yeah, the two versions are so different though. It's crazy. Like the one that won by David Nunez was not playing Ragavan but Sprite Dragon. It plays Manamorphose, it plays Mutagenic Growth and Breach. The other one plays Consider, plays Anoli Heat and Ragavan. So actually they diversify like about 12 cards, which is maybe even more than that.
Well, this one is like blue, like mono red, the Splashing Dragon. It's like mono red semi combo one with Breach and the Metamorphosis, and trying to go off in a big turn. And the other one is more like a normal deck, like it's like a need set deck, just try to go under. I don't even think they should be called the same. Like there's like different decks, like very different. Like the other one is pretty much like blue red. Like it's more. If you think about it, it's very similar to blue red Mortite. But instead of like having the overtop, like Mortite game, it just like tries to capitalize on the card advantage because it even plays like like out of the stage and also iteration. So that's only 8 draw 2. So they try to win games by having card advantage. And the other one is like a blitz deck. They just want to cast a creature and just go Morphose, Growth, Breach, kill you. So one is like blue red mid range, and the other one is blue red Storm or whatever. I think.
Yeah, well, I played it this morning. I was impressed. I don't know. I guess I got slightly unlucky, but I was not that impressed. Maybe this version with the Mutagenic Growth. I felt like I missed the Mutagenic Growth. Like the explosiveness of the deck, it's what draws you into it over Murktide.
Yeah, I mean,
sure,
it really depends. Yeah, they're different. The other one is just like Mortite less Mortite. Like I would say, like this deck is like the format is very hostile to like Mortite and Breach because of like endurances and the such. So I'm just gonna build a blue red deck where instead of having these big guys, I have Swift Spear and Scar Mage. That's it. Like that's literally this deck. So that's basically a blue red Mortite in a nutshell. Like it just works like that. The other one, I mean, I think this dragon it must have like a lot of turn 3 kills. Like it should be easy to turn 3 kill with this deck, right? Like with Mutagenic and 2 channelers on a Breach, you can just bam, like attack them for a lot and turn 3 and just kill them.
For sure. Anthony, look at the 4th place deck list. You'll see a lot of standard legal cards in it. You see, wow.
I don't know, these. I mean, they're standard legal, I suppose. They don't actually see that much play though, outside of the 2
they're legal, right? Yeah,
but they are legal. Yeah.
Well, we see Jix Yawgmoth Praetor, which is basically like can I say it's an Edric? It's a black Edric.
It's black Edric.
Like that. I barely remembered what that card was. Yes, it's the same.
It does geeks. It is the same.
Yep.
And it is very weird. It's super weird to see Evolved Sleeper. Like that card does not look good to me.
No, it does not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if I
I'll play this list tomorrow. I play this list tomorrow because it has it's just new deck. I like to try the new decks. On the sideboard, it has a very old card, Olivia Boldanen.
Wow, Olivia Boldanen, like this 2014. I mean, I'm pretty sure Olivia Boldanen has to be good if it resolves unchecked against like the Mortite.
I guess so.
Ping the Mortite, take the Mortite.
Yeah, resolving it for mana 3/3s. Ambitious.
It is, but like
maybe
it also
there's
has some other
really
interesting
cards.
I don't know. Yeah, like the Bitter Blossom, for example.
But one thing worth mentioning is that there was a devoted druid deck that top 8 at the event, and there is a card previewed in the next set which is gonna be very good in the archetype, which is Tivar Jubilant Brawler, which gives the static abilities that gives every creature ability to like it doesn't give haste, it only gives haste to the activate ability, which is
it's like 1,000-year
weird.
elixir, right?
Yeah, but are we sure that that's like even good in this deck?
It doesn't sound good to me.
Because
like it doesn't
I think
sound
the best
like,
ability is the last one, that you can reanimate a devoted druid and combo immediately. Because you have a Vizier in play, you just cast this, you reanimate a druid, and you have infinite mana.
Okay. So it's like good because I understand now.
It's like this list plays the card that reanimates. What's it called? Or Postmortem Lounge.
Yeah, Postmortem. Yeah. So it's like a better version of that.
Yeah, exactly, because it's a planeswalker, so it's planeswalker.
I mean, it doesn't do much as a planeswalker. It's like it's like a very marginal upgrade to like the
postmodern lunge.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's a lot of people say things like, "Oh, it's a planeswalker and it's just a planeswalker," but the reason that planeswalkers were historically good was that they stay in play and generate value over time. But every planeswalker that doesn't do that probably shouldn't be evaluated the same way. So this card being a planeswalker is like not particularly relevant because it's not like
it's a downside because you can attack it.
Yeah, you're not really grinding people. Oh, it's just like a weird spell. Like it might get you like a little bit extra value after you reanimate something, but if you're doing it just to kill them, it doesn't really help you. So
plus it can be protected with something like Burrenton Forge.
Can't search for the other damage call, whatever. Yeah, it's not like it is much more like a weird sorcery than a planeswalker, I would say. So
because this list plays 2 extraction specialists, also as a reanimation spell.
Yeah, so this seems better than a specialist. Like it is much better than a specialist. So it's,
because it gives haste.
Yeah, like it's maybe good, but it's not that much better than postmortem lunge.
Yeah,
and then this deck also plays Javier's favorite cube card, Viridian Longbow.
Yeah, wow. Well, Viridian Longbow is a sick Pauper cube card, but it's like. Well, it's here in a modern event top 8. I did not see this one coming, but you can fetch it with a Stormforge Mystic, and you can just it's a Q card. Like VCR.
If you have infinite mana.
That's a. No, I mean you use infinite field, right? They just tap and tap and tap. Shit.
Infinite mana. Stormforge Mystic in this deck is cool because you have Kaldra and Batterskull is a fair plan. It reminds me of the Cephalid deck, right? And you combo, and you can pick up the Luxior Jada's Gift, which is a combo piece with Vizier, with Devoted Druid, or you can keep the Viridian Longbow, which is a combo kill if you have infinite mana.
Well, now I want to build this deck. Like, the fact that Stormforge Mystic is half combo, half Kaldra, seems to be, like, extremely appealing. Because you can also do the classic, like, you just play Stormforge, get the combo card, so they don't kill Stormforge then, and they just bang, put the Kaldra. And then the game's over, because Kaldra wins the game. I think... I mean, I like this deck. I would like to try.
The problem with these decks is always that Blue Red Murktide and Just Get Breach. They play like 8 1-mana removal spell with like super efficiency and etc. But you do play 3 Burrenton Forge Tender, which is great against Raven. Main deck, yeah, of course.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, this player went 1-11, 3-1. I don't know. I mean,
there is a subscriber of my channel that top 8'd a challenge with a deck list similar to this. Might have actually been the same. I don't know. And I choose not to play this deck because on Magic Online it's a lot of clicks. I remember doing
this video
once.
Yep.
Yeah. So I didn't want to do it again, but I think Kindness is streaming this deck right now.
Yeah, it is a cool deck. I like it.
All right. The top 8 rounds out with the classic Eldrazi, which is always there, despite everyone hates it.
I think saying it's always there is... I don't think that's objectively true. But
I mean, we literally mention Eldrazi or Tron every podcast. Like, we say, like, wow, there's a Tron deck, and we just keep saying it.
Well, a Tron deck, not specifically Eldrazi Tron. That's different.
No, it's Tron or Eldrazi Tron. It's one of them.
I just think there was always this perception that Eldrazi Tron was always there, and that was just... not true.
Okay. So I'm saying something like there's the Tron rule where any given week when we check the top 8s, there's always one Tron deck somewhere there. That's always there. There's always one Tron. This time it's Eldrazi Tron.
They have a reserved seat, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always one Tron, and we still say like, wow, and there's a Tron deck there, and that's cool.
Okay. Please check out the 17th place. It is a deck that plays Trash for Treasure.
Wow.
And Voldaren Epicure as well. A great favorite.
Attempts to reanimate Portal to Pyrexia.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, this deck is wild. I mean, that's too much for me. I don't understand what's going on here. Just scrap work mud, the Scarf Portal, and then Trash for Treasure. Get it back. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess people can't really remove Portal to Phyrexia. That's like super Archon,
It is super Archon.
Like
you put it into play by a blue-red Murktide, presumably.
Yeah, wow.
This deck seems extremely cool, of course, like fun to play, but I don't think this is like super good. I I will prefer to play the Devoted Druid one into a tournament, even though this one is obviously cooler because, like scrapboard mud in Modern, but...
All right, so a Modern deck with some standard cards that did well in a Modern tournament, but what about we move over Standard, where an actual Standard deck with a Rakdos card did well in the Standard Challenge? It is our beloved Mogd, who maybe listened to the Carnies last week and cut blue from Grixis.
Yeah, go on.
What do you think? Did he listen to the Carnies, or he just came up with that big brain play himself?
No, I think it goes the other way. We report what Mogd does. I don't think that we're telling Mogd what to do. But we did suggest that was a possible direction, right, Javier? I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah, we did. And I think, once again, this deck list just makes sense. I'm a little bit like... I'm skeptical of the Liliana of the Veil one-off in the main deck or whatever, but this is like a very good deck against the aggro decks. Like, it just goes back, like Shoulder comes back to the menu as 2 sweepers main deck. I actually played 2 sweepers in Grixis when Sacrifice decks roll around with Sahili, and I think it's a good time to bring them back. Up to 4 total. Like, this deck just certainly feels like it's favorable. Like, it's favored against...
It's pushed against soldiers, right?
Yeah, like it just has to be good.
Clear target. Yeah,
exactly. And post cyber out the Invoke Despairs and just put like some Wax, the Sweepers and Cat Downs, and just like even have a better deck. Like, so
I'm pretty sure we've literally not seen Whack until now. Like, I mean, I guess the whole time that Ray of Enfeeblement was legal, you would never have played Whack as well instead of that. But yeah, now Ray of Enfeeblement has rotated. This is the first time that we've had enough white decks to have Whack see sideboard play, which is also like decent against Esper, right? So.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I actually had it on, I think, an Alchemy deck or a standard deck in Arena or whatever for a while until I discovered it was a sorcery. But I played it at the sorcerer speed, like without noticing it was not an instant. Like, I didn't know it was not an instant.
Oh, it was just organically right to play it at the time.
Yeah, so I was sorcery, and then like one game, like, why did not Arena stop? And I was like, what? Sorcery,
no.
Like, yeah, it's...
Yeah, so and then there's some other new cards that we've well, not new cards, but cards that we haven't really see much play in these decks as well, especially in the sideboard. So Squee and Jaya, which I think are ways to try to get back some edge against the grindy matchups, because naturally switching to Rakdos is a sacrifice in other mid-range matchups to try to gain edge against soldiers, right? So you have to have some relatively specialized cards, I think.
Squee doesn't seem great, does it?
I assume that's what it's for, though, right? Like, why else would you have Squee?
No, of course, I understand it's why it's for, but I'll be surprised if a Squee ends being better than something like a second Jaya. Squee just seems like so low impact.
I think Jaya is good, but it's a little bit awkward into so many Invoke Despair, so I can see not wanting to play too many of them. Yeah, I think Squee is also a little better than it was before, because if everyone is still at the stage where they don't play Sheoldred and just try to gear towards mid-range mirrors, like they've all switched like Wandering Minds and tons of spells, then maybe I can see Squee being better than we might have had experiences with before. So yeah, I do think it's a little odd, but I can see it being good.
I mean, it's a red Udo, right? Maybe a Squee here is like I always think of a Squee as sort of like semi-goblin or warboss or whatever, but here it's actually probably more like an Udo type of card where it's the first escape card. So he is planning to cast Squee like 6 times or 5 times or whatever. Yeah, and then it becomes much better because each Squee can actually trade with a card sometimes, right? So maybe that's why. I mean, that would make sense. I mean, way more than... I don't think they're trying to run away with the game with a Squee.
No, I mean, that's not happening, right?
Yeah, but that's just not happening in Standard anymore. Yeah.
I mean,
do you have any way of exiling in the Standard outside of
Corpse
the
Appraiser?
Corpse Appraiser everywhere.
That's the big one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Wandering Emperor, but I don't think you want Squee against those decks anyway. So it's really just Grixis that I would worry about it getting appraised. But I mean, Corpse Appraiser isn't that good against the rest of your deck anyway, so maybe they don't even have all of them post board, or maybe they'll let Jabberwocky and only played 2 in the first place, So
and I think they will keep the ones they have. Like, I understand they're not great, but I don't think you're sideboarding out any appraisers in matches where
you probably don't have enough cards anyway to start sideboarding out.
You have worse cards also. Yeah. Like, even Go for the Throat's also not bad here because you have Sheoldred, but yeah, I mean, this is a good solid build. Like, this is a build I will actually like to play in a challenge if I had played one myself. I think this kind of deck is good, and also
unless the churn has moved on already. I mean, if maybe the soldiers starts to retreat back a bit because of this decks like this coming out again. So maybe we want to be prepared for the mid-range mirrors again, right? I think maybe
absolutely.
The cycle is moving
They
already.
They will for sure. I mean, they already. I mean, we don't have the exact deck list because for some reason Magic Online deck lists are not working again. I guess it's very hard to actually make them function. Mm-hmm. But it's not like they dominated the tournament as much. It seems.
So what?
For the data that we have, Soldier didn't do as well as in the previous weekend for sure.
Naturally, yeah. Well, I mean, if stuff like this is rising, then there's bad consequences for.
But there's one deck that I want to talk about. Like, it's just kind of wild. Like this mono white. I mean, so once there's like mono white deck that's just very good, it makes sense just to splash something, right? Even if you play lay down arms, you don't need exactly like to be only planes to play lay down arms. With,
sure, makes sense.
With 10 or 15 or whatever, it's plenty. So you could say like, well, I'm gonna splash some cards, but I didn't see. I will never see it coming. Like the card they splash, it's mono white. They splash one stroke, which is this one we've seen before, but it's splashing pretty much like Teferi Temporal Pilgrim. What?
Huh? Oh yeah, this list by Carnage Cards ENT. I think they.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's this? Like what? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm guessing. It's kind of strange because they only have one Farewell. Like my first guess would have been that Farewell is one of the best tools for these heavy white decks, and naturally you want to pair that with Planeswalkers. And I do think Teferi is quite strong because I tried it in Esper and was reasonably impressed by it. So I think the card is quite good. Just as a standalone Planeswalker. I would have assumed it was paired with more Farewells, but I guess they have 2 more in their sideboard, so maybe it helps facilitate that plan. Like they have another Teferi in their sideboard as well. Where they can go.
They played it with Ursa Silex though. I mean, Ursa Silex over Farewell makes sense because if you're playing Soldiers and they play Ursa Silex, it's like, They
also have some cute synergy here as well. I don't know if you've noticed it. So, Urza Silex, the triggered ability. So, I mean, I guess maybe not everybody knows immediately what Urza Silex does. So it is pretty close to Nevinrul's Disc or Oblivion Stone, where it's 3 mana to cast. You can pay 4 mana and exile it. Each player chooses 6 lands they control and destroy everything else. But whenever Urza Silex is exiled, you can pay mana to search for a Planeswalker and put it into your hand. So the default is, that you pay 6 mana, pay the 4 to exile it, and then pay the 2 to search for a Planeswalker. But they also have Touch the Spirit Realm, which is some good synergy. So you can flicker your own. Yeah, you can flicker your own Silex, and that counts as being exiled, right? So
what?
You can get 2 Planeswalkers that way, right?
So. Wow, okay, yeah. And you can also just, touch your creature end of turn, right? And just
and
also
get it out of the way of the Silex, so you get to protect your creature or search up a Planeswalker, sack it, search up a Planeswalker. Now you've cleared the board and you have a Wandering Emperor and a Teferi in your hand, right? So
that's pretty good also. Okay. You can also just, Blink the Restoration of the Ganjo. Okay, well, that's something.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, Touch of the Spirit Realm is a card that is performing very well in Legacy, and it was, kind of unknown, undiscovered. So maybe
it was
standard.
I mean, we've seen Touch the Spirit Realm in Modern as well, and it has seen a bunch of standard play, so apparently multi-format all-staple, Touch the Spirit Realm.
Disappear.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, well, this I
didn't think one for my cube as well.
Yeah, this is good.
Good choice. I mean, it's a fun card as well. It's really sweet. Like, it just does a bunch of fairly powerful things, and I think that Teferi was just a fine enough card that I'm not. It is odd that it's being splashed for. Obviously, it's not the sort of thing that you would imagine to splash for, but I think it does provide something unique to Mono White. Right? They don't have as many cards that simply generate a lot of cards over time. Like they're a really grindy deck, but don't actually draw that many cards. Because Wedding Announcement is not particularly good at drawing cards when you don't have a lot of cheap creatures. So I think this adds something. I think I like this version of the white mid-range deck more than the previous ones that we've seen that are truly mono white. I kind of like the splash with Teferi. Well, it's kind of funny, There's always a way for a 5-mana Teferi to generate to muscle its way into these decks.
No, this deck is good.
This list does not play Sarah Paragon.
No, not Paragon,
I
and
think
not
that's a thing.
Yeah.
Because this is like much more of like an actual control deck. I think. Like I know it's listed as a mid-range deck, but I feel like this will play closer to control a lot of the time because you're not really going to beat down anybody, right? With Ambitious Farmhand, and this Reckoner Bankbuster doesn't crew very often. This is a Reckoner Bankbuster that's way closer to the Maze Mind Tome part than the Heart of Kiran part, I think. So I feel like this is more of a control deck, and I don't know. I think it's well positioned for that. I mean, didn't we just say before that a control deck is well positioned against a narrow field, well, standard might be narrow enough.
Wedding Announcement seems pretty, it doesn't seem very good here. I think next step I will go here will be probably cut Wedding Announcement for actual something similar that's better in this shell. If there's something.
I haven't loved Wedding Announcement in slower decks. Like, even post-board sometimes I find it's like, it underperforms a little, so.
It might be still correct, but yeah.
Yeah, it's powerful, but. Yeah.
You should have told me before, since I bought them for €7 each this weekend.
And they were good, and they might be good again.
Yeah, that's the thing about standard. I told you, right? Like, you buy the cards, and by the time they arrive, they're not good, but it's okay because the week after that, they'll be good again. Don't worry about it. It'll be. Just have to wait a little bit. Maybe what we should have told you was that Urza's Silex was the source.
I mean, I had no idea. But now I'm looking at the card. I mean, it just looks like a fine card. It can actually be 6-7 mana just. Destroy the board and just get back to the game.
Also, I think it's legitimately a powerful effect, but also it's just I think it would be a pleasure to resolve it, just because you think of all those clogged the super permanent heavy boards in standard sometimes, and then you start to have a headache trying to figure it all out because it's so complex. This is just all right, let's just start again. I don't want to think about this anymore.
But also the lands, these games against Grixis where they get ahead on mana because they have 12 mana and you have 8 mana because they get more card advantage. If you play Silex, you can undo a lot of
actually resets it. That's one of the only ways to one of the most concrete forms of card advantage is lands, right? Because no one can touch them. So the fact that Grixis has so many more lands, even if you somehow manage to sweep them, they keep drawing more cards.
They printed a card that actually regulates the lands, like the mana base. They don't really. I don't recall many control cards that actually attack lands, like sweep lands.
Yeah, there's just not many. And when they exist, they're usually comically weak. Land destruction is just something they try to keep out of standard. But this seems, I mean, maybe this is stretching the definition of land destruction if it only cuts you down to 6, but. On a relative scale, standard easily goes far more than 6 mana. So it's not really stopping anyone from playing the game. It's just trying to stop it from getting out of control.
Playing
where
4
it becomes
spells,
you
can play this card, you're behind on mana because they're Grixis. You play this card, and then you play your land drop after you activate it. So you suddenly are ahead of mana. That's just...
Yeah.
And this card might just be very good.
I think
you can miss some land drops because you're gonna crack this thing eventually on 7 lands.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. That's card advantage, actually.
That's quite. Wow. This is definitely an interesting. Yeah, I don't know. We just haven't seen any of this card, but now we're reading it and seeing a bunch of the synergies in the deck. This is a really good job actually, because this also feels more new as well, right? The others were just kind of moving along the cycle. We're just trying to pin down where in the cycle we are. Is it Grixis? Is it Rakdos? Is really just a question of what we expect other people to do. But this list is actually something. There are some innovations here that actually structurally change how the deck works. So this could be a big development. I don't know. We're going to have to play some to figure that out. But
yeah, we need to play.
I'm very interested.
The idea is good. And the deck,
for all we know, this may just not be functional. We don't know. Maybe the card is just too slow. But I could see this being a big deal. Yeah. So we really have to try this.
At least there are some spots where this card is complete nuts. That's right. That's clear, right?
But how sick would it be to play it in this event? Where now we're maybe your player will be sick, but how much more sick is it if your opponent doesn't even know it exists? How are you meant to play around that? At some point they just slam this and wipe your whole board. You just thought you were so far ahead, and now you've lost everything, and they went and tutored a Teferi into their hand. That seems tough.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they won a game or two with this card, right? I mean, at least the card showed up, because you see so many cards, they're gonna see all the cards.
The only sad part is that they did this on Magic Online and not Magic Arena, where you can imagine playing this on Arena, you blow up with their board and you can see them mousing over it. That would have been. Yeah. You just have to imagine it on Magic Online.
Reading the card, I know. I can imagine that easily.
The cursor. Yeah. Wow. What a deck. What else was it? Was there anything else in Standard that was particularly noteworthy? That was quite a big deal.
Well, there was a arena event, the Pizza Box Open, of 124 players. We often just mention Magic Online events, but this is just a lot of people gathering on arena, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems so. It's quite a decent tournament. Yeah. I guess maybe there's some interest picking up because of the RCs and whatnot. It kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah. So Soldiers seem to have won the event.
Oh,
with
nice.
With some other common decks like Esper Midrange, Mono Black, Mardu, which is not something I normally see. What's Pyrexian Missionary? Oh, is it the one that like
it's
a breaking?
Yeah. I was thinking like it's mono black, but Pyrexian Obliterator is not there yet, right?
Ooh.
You know, I understand mono black will have a big appealing in the future, but now I don't think mono black is just better than mono black Fable. I just think the Fable.
It's a bit tough.
Not a big fan of not having.
But
Fable.
Soon, I think.
No, soon. I mean, soon. I mean, I think Obliterator might just be good enough that you can say like, well, maybe black is better. Who knows? Maybe just like doesn't seem to play because of Shieldred. Who knows?
I think there are other cards that are going to be a bigger deal for mono black, but I think we'll get to that when we start talking about spoilers. I do think there are even bigger deals for mono black aggro. I think Obliterator might be like the third best thing for mono black in the next set.
Okay,
that's exciting.
What are the other ones?
I'm not going to tell you now, Mengu. You got to wait.
Yeah, we'll have to wait.
Yeah, you got to wait for the content. Sorry.
Next week.
Okay.
Next week you give us 2 good cards from mono black aggro.
They don't have to be good. They just have to be better than Phyrex and Obliterate. I guess that sounds like they're going to be pretty good. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they have to be pretty good. So yeah, nothing very special. I think. There's a mono red aggro deck, but they have in there around hovering at tier 2, whatever. I would say a lot of mono red compared to other tournaments, but yeah, nothing very spicy. Nothing definitely like. I just like this blue-white control so much that
this is a game breaker for me.
Yeah,
or
I
maybe
want to try it.
But
one question: if you play a second color, so if you splash white, of course you have to give up the colorless land, so Mishra's Foundry and Roadside Reliquary. Do you think that is a big deal for mono white versus blue white?
Well, it depends what you're adding. Oh, you mean the mono white deck? No, I think that's okay. Like, I'm not really sure that Mishra's Foundry was particularly important to that deck anyway, so
like Teferi has to be mirror break. Like Teferi has to be just often game over in a mirror match. Like you play mono white against mono white, which is like these slow games where all the cards trade with each other, and just play Teferi and just draw cards and win. I think
like
of course, some games it's gonna like some cards.
Yeah, how do you kill a Teferi in the mirror?
Also, this Inful Stroke is like the best card against Sanctuary Warden in the whole format.
Yeah, for sure.
And the fact that you can stroke them, but they cannot stroke you because they're mono white is so much better than Reliquary, in my opinion.
That's always been the bane of like this type of deck in past standard formats, where every time you played against a similar deck that was slow but also had blue, you would just never get to stick your bombs, right? But
exactly,
now
behind.
They've gone back to that. Yeah, figured it out. I think
behind.
Mishra's Foundry is a good card, but it's better in aggressive decks, and this is super not.
Playing main deck this Inful Stroke in a format. And Loran in a format where, and I guess also Bunkmaster in a format where Soldier is very popular is risky because you have like 8 cards.
And Destroy Evil. It's actually more than that. They also have Destroy Evil.
And Teferi, I don't know. This deck game 1 seems pretty bad. What's in the sideboard that turns the matchup around?
Temporary lockdown. That has to be completely sick against Soldiers, right? Like, yeah, they have depopulated.
So basically. Yeah, so this main deck says, I'm just going to be as bad as I can against Soldiers, but I'm going to be as good as I can post sideboard.
Yeah, I can respect that. Like, they've definitely picked their meta game spot, and it kind of makes sense. Like, it's kind of like the next level, where Soldiers did really well, but then you know that people are going to switch to decks to fight Soldiers, which also means Soldiers doing less well. So that's like double good for you, right? You play against less Soldiers if you get deep into the tournament, and you face the people who beat the Soldiers, and this deck is great against them. Like, you can imagine playing this against like the black-red deck that we talked about, and that would be pretty comfortable, I have to imagine. So, yeah, I kind of get this. They kind of like went one step ahead, really.
So what you're saying is that I have to buy some Teferi Temporal Pilgrim?
Yeah, I think so.
Are they going to be as expensive as Teferi? Wait, what was it called? The one that I bought for €100?
Oh my, the Teferi Master. No, it's not going to be that. I promise you that this will be a fraction of the cost, and I don't know how many times better. So many times better. That card was awful. My God.
I still have that card in the cube, but it can never be cut.
I think it has to be cut. I don't even think it's good enough. It just seems...
No, but I paid it €100. I can never cut it.
MTG Finance.
Yeah, buy high, never sell.
It's just bound to remain in the cube. Yeah, it just cannot be moved.
What about the memories though? Like every time you see the scar, I'm sure you can.
Yeah, it must be a little upsetting,
Anthony
right?
bullying you, because of that.
Also, it doesn't matter how many times people play with that card. Nobody knows how phasing works.
Oh well.
Like they'll keep on asking questions about the counters, the enchantments.
I don't blame them.
I have a really good solution to that. Maybe they just shouldn't.
When
put
does
it
the
into
card
their
come
deck
back?
And they're not going to have to ask. comes back to your untap step before you untap. But
it's not exactly the best design ever. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, I do remember when it came out, some people were very afraid of whether it would be overpowered, which was, well, yeah, let's say it didn't really work out that way. Some people were so excited about the card, they paid €100 for a fancy version, you know?
I mean, you can
some
say
people
it's good
would
or
say
bad,
that was hasty.
Exactly, but it's complicated for sure. Like, it's not an easy card.
Yeah.
Like, the rules implications of the card is, like, certainly not, like...
It is a weird one. But yes, I promise you, Mengu, this Teferi will be a much better buy. Which is really not a very high buy clip, but I think this card
But not for the cube, though. You can buy them, but not put them in the cube. Yeah, there's not cube material here.
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a cool card for cube.
Oh, there's a new card for cube. I think the new Nisa completed is good in cube.
Sure.
We'll see.
We'll see. That one definitely isn't in standard yet.
I will not be so sure, Mengu, but we'll see how it plays out. I will not rush it, assuming it's good.
All right. Since we're talking about standard, Javier, I know you played a format similar to standard. Do you want to talk about now, or you want to keep it for later?
You mean the format of the people?
No, Pauper. It's not similar to standard.
No, I'm talking the actual format of the people. I mean, it's not as similar as standard as I think it is. I'm afraid.
Oh, is it not?
No, it's not. Let's do the format of the people if you want now. I mean, so this weekend we had the arena qualifier, which is like a pretty big deal to me.
The qualifier weekend.
And also, I love to play these arena events. I just love arena. I think it's my favorite. You know, like whenever I can play a format in arena, I just play it, like limited or whatever. And I just like playing tournaments in arena. You don't have to wait between rounds. You can just set your own pace. I just love every single aspect of it. So I try to not miss any of them. And this weekend it was Alchemy. I played some games of Alchemy, like sometimes, like just for fun or whatever, before bed, but I'm not like a super expert. But this time something new happened. I just like play the brew. Like a few days ago, I started to play some games with someone called Pau in the arena, and also just playing some ladder randomly. And on Friday, I was losing to the Revels deck, like this Naya Revels deck with Lifegain or whatever. And on Friday, I was like, let's just brew this thing, green-white Lifegain cards, and that's why I ultimately played in the tournament, the qualifier, where I actually made day 2, and I should probably have to switch decks on Sunday to an actual good deck, I guess. But I just, went with the brew for 2 days, and I ended up doing 2-2 on day 2. But I think one of the games was like very unlikely to lose, but I just decided to never, get a third land drop and just die without casting a spell. That happens at Magic. But Alchemy, again, keeps performing. I don't know if Anthony has played any of it, but...
very little, but the thing that excited me a lot was, so obviously Javier didn't have that much experience either, and this was really unfamiliar territory. So there's a card named Inquisitor Captain. The only important part is that it requires you to have a certain number of creatures in your deck for it to function, right? And the games in Alchemy go very long, which I guess that is also similar to Standard, but even more so because the specific cards in Alchemy push the games to go even longer somehow. So he was trying to figure out exactly how many cards you want to play. So what was it, 63? You submitted 63, right?
So for first time in my life, I ended playing 63 cards in a tournament. And just to be clear, I did not play 63 out of laziness or out of like, I don't know how to cut. Like, then again, this tournament was like relevant for me. Like, I took it like, it was an important tournament or whatever. So I just played 63 because I thought it was correct, which is something that I had never, like, I never thought of it before. Like, I never played a tournament with more than 60 cards in my life where it was not Jorian, right? And because this card demands you to have 20 creatures in your library or hand or graveyard. But one, the game goes long, as Anthony said, and also like they can exile the graveyard or whatever. So I had a few times where I played this card and I had exactly 19 and sometimes 18. So I was like, well, I need one more creature card, but I don't think I can cut any of the cards profitably, like any of the other spells. So I thought of this card sort of like a Sejorian, where
what an elegant solution, by the way, I have to say.
Yeah. So I was like, if I put one more card or two, if you put two more creatures, the card will virtually always be active, and then I will use one more land, so I have 63. So I will just treat this card as Sejorian. And I mean, I just went for it. Like, I mean, some of the cards were not very good because I had never played with him before, but I just went 7-1 on day one with a 63 card deck, And with what I learned from day one, I actually cut it down to 61. But I'm pretty sure in this actual deck, 61 was better than 60. But it is not like, 61 out of again, random things. It's just like, I just felt like I comboed like 2 times where my captain just exactly 20 creatures. So I will have not comboed with less creatures. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, just the deck building challenge of just having to build cards with such strange rules.
Yeah,
that was really fun for me. Anthony also helped me, and I think
when you say combo, what do you mean? Sorry.
Like there was like this Lifegain type of deck where I had this, the Soul Guardians and Agenic Primates. Like sometimes you have like three Soul Guardians, and you need one, voice to just have a big guy.
Right.
One of the games are like, exactly 20 creatures, and you just go the captain, just play it, and you just get the voice and just win the game with the voice on the next turn just because I had 20 creatures. Like those things happened. And yeah, they too, I went down to 61. I should maybe probably just switch to a Fable deck or whatever. But then, I mean, with Fable, I could have to just go also 2 lands and never draw the Fable, which is...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It could happen with any deck, but...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like it was so interesting because... Like most of the formats have been relatively stable-ish for like the worst, for like the last, I don't know, the last couple of months. But this was just a completely different deck building exercise because we've never really had to think about what's the right number of cards to play.
Never. It was very good.
Never had to think about it.
We said in the podcast. Anthony said in the podcast here, like it's funny how the format that's only online and like the newest format in Magic, it's actually the one that behaves like the oldest ones. Like, like where you just, the all-time Magic where you just brew in decks. Like, I played against some brews. Like, a lot of people played brews in this tournament. And that's super cool. And I just also brewed myself, like, a deck the day before the tournament. I just ended up playing it, which is something I will never do in established format.
But even setting aside, like, the brews, like, the couple of people who didn't play brews did very well. I was fortunate enough to be watching a couple of our teammates play in the qualifier. They were muted and deafened, of course. But, I was really, really impressed by the quality of the games as well, and it was so interesting to watch. Like, I didn't even fully, I obviously don't play Alchemy regularly or really at all, but I loved watching these matches. So Ginky, Johnny Gutman, ended up getting to the 7 wins, which is massive. Like, that gets him both an Arena Championship invite and qualifying for the next Pro Tour. And Austin Bursavich got 5 wins. But watching their matches and just listening to them talk about what was going on, or, having us spectators be like, oh, what's going on here? Like, what lines are there available to him and his opponent? They were amazing. They were really, really great games to watch. Like, watching strong players play this format was, I don't know, I haven't felt anything like it for a while. Like, watching these games, I loved it. Like, the grindy games are so interesting. Like, they're very long. I do think so that's not for everybody. But there are lots of, like, really intense decisions that don't come up in, Magic historically. Like the way the Seek mechanic works, where that there's a subset of cards that it could be, or things like Captain that just work in slightly different ways, or even just cards that you just, like, even just regular cards that work kind of normally, but that you've never seen before or very often because Alchemy is so underplayed. Cards like the Hourglass Coven, like, that's not that weird of a card, but it's very interesting in a way that we don't see that often because it's a bit Hearthstone-y, I guess, isn't it? Where there's like...
Yeah, it is a little bit like
you have to work around a lot of variables, and there's a lot of skill to it still. Right? I think it was John Finkel who said that a lot of the skill in Magic is playing from different positions, and I think Alchemy really underscored that for me this weekend. I wasn't that aware of it before, but watching those guys play it, now I really feel that.
The format of the people. Yeah, I play different. I just play like green-white, but it's still like, even with green-white synergy decks, which are like very linear, I still had a lot of like super complex game building situations. Like a card like Celestial of Angel, which I love.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That card's super interesting to play with and super fun. Like it's very flexible. I had a lot of. I mean, I didn't do well in the tournament, but even though I didn't do well, I had like a lot of fun just building the deck and actually also playing the game. So. Yeah, it was a good experience. It was not, it was not the best tournament, but it was good. Yeah,
previously I was mostly only talking about Alchemy to annoy Mengu. Like I didn't really have very much investment or experience with it. But after watching and talking a bit about it this weekend, I think I might legitimately be sold. So
I mean, you're gonna still try to annoy Mengu though. But yeah,
I'm still gonna. Yeah, that 100% that's still going to happen. But wow, this is incredible. So someone in Twitch chat asked Mengu when he might get me to like Modern, but I guess mission failed, because now I'm talking about how much I've been fascinated by Alchemy this weekend. Which
in my defense, though, I told you this gameplay was very good.
You did, yeah. But now I'm like, wow, like, I don't know, watching those Grixis matches was amazing. And I mean, to be fair, you'll get a lot of that in standard as well. But yeah, I don't know, this was great. Yeah.
All right. That's all for the people. Mengu, you can just...
When I know something that was not amazing instead that happened this weekend, the Legacy Showcase, which is a pretty important tournament, had basically just literally 2 decks in the whole event.
Oh, yeah. Can I guess what they were?
That happens often, right? Yeah.
Was it Pate and Reanimator?
Yeah,
the winner, which is Jujubin, a very Zoomer MTGO grinder, won the event playing against 6 initiative decks in the Swiss.
Wow.
And the rest of the decks he played against were Delver decks. And he was playing, in fact, a Delver deck, but he had a great technology, which was 4 Snuff Out in the main deck.
That's impressive technology. I just think this is like very smart, and I saw it and was like, wow, that's just very well thought, because the format is like, the dominant tables is mostly like initiative and Delver, and this card is great against both. It kills Mortide. I understand it has some weaknesses in the mirror match, but it's still like good enough to kill Mortide, and just like the best card ever. I was impressed by this card in Vintage. I played this some outs in Vintage against Initiative in Sultai, and the card was like an all-star, so I can see how good it would be in the Delver against Initiative, and they just nailed it. I think
it makes sense. Like it seems like a very high tempo format with Initiative taking up so much space, but that's they say 2 free for the bean. I guess when they say 2 free for the bean, he plays free spells like Snuff Out. That just makes
only
sense.
Only for life, that's not a lot for the bean. He's very young, so he can just pay some life. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow, that's
congratulations for winning a tournament with such this kind of technology always feels good.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I get that it seems lame that there was only initiative decks, but I really like that someone actually exploited that. That's cool. I think that's very cool. I appreciate that, even if the rest is, as Mengu says, not the most exciting for a lot of people.
No, yeah, Legacy. I feel like we're just waiting. Like, I just feel like we're just waiting until the ban so we can go back to play Legacy. That's the general feeling.
You really think they're going to ban Snuff Out? I think that's an overreaction. I don't think we need to ban Snuff Out.
It just feels like everyone's like so sure it's going to happen. Because I talk with some friends that are just Legacy, Legacy players or whatever, and they're just like, yeah, we're just waiting, just not play too much or whatever.
Okay, yeah. The waiting room. Okay.
What is your wish list for the ban list, if you have one?
Honestly, yours. Like, you just talk to me into... Sanctuary being actually the problem, so I will probably go with Sanctuary and Initiative pretty much.
Okay.
That's because I never thought of it until you actually said it. He was on the podcast like some weeks ago, like maybe months or whatever. But I will probably go for Sanctuary and Initiative. I will just completely wipe the Initiative. I will not risk just only getting rid of the Adventurer. Like, I just
Oh wow! Okay.
I think having the deck is just miserable, so I would just get rid of Initiative. My wish list is Initiative, and then Sanctuary, or I don't know. Like, I think Delver is the type of deck where it's similar to Mortide in Modern, where if that kind of deck is the best deck, the format is kind of healthy because it leads into there's a lot of different decks. Some of them are good against Delver, but not so much and such. But I still think Sanctuary is the card that actually makes the blue decks a little bit over the top nowadays, other than Brainstorm, of course, on Force of Will. But I don't know, for me it's Initiative. Anything else is just just sauce. Like, it doesn't matter that much.
So you're saying not just White Plume Adventure, but also Seasoned Engineer, Caves Adventure, and etc.
Yeah, my wish list will be just wipe all the Initiative cards, like just wipe the whole Initiative mechanic. For sure.
Yeah, because the problem is that there's a handful of cards that aren't on Magic Online, specifically a 4-drop black, that in combination with the other 4-block, there's like a couple of 4-drop black that gives Initiative. You can just build like a Dark Ritual.
Yeah, that will imagine, just on the draw, land or Ritual, Lotus Petal, Initiative, GG. It's the same problem, right? Like, black might be worse than white, but it doesn't necessarily, it might be better than white, because black also has some good cards. So yeah, imagine you're in the draw. They go Grief plus Initiative.
Grief. Yeah, I was thinking about
Grief. Yeah. So yeah, I think for me, like, anything that's not completely wiping the mechanic to multiplayer, like just saying like it only works in multiplayer, anything that's not bad, it's like just not a good announcement. But that's me. I just don't think it's a good for the game. But yeah,
I was thinking that by banning a 3-drop in the same way that they banned only the 4-drop in Pauper, you are reducing the mechanic to, like in Pauper right now, they banned all the 4-drops, and the mechanic is there, you can play it. It's there, basically.
Yeah.
It's not great. So I'm thinking that if you just do that, you keep the deck alive, so the people who bought, like, you know, Chrome Mox and the Emeria Call, which are pretty expensive right now, don't just, you know, still hold the deck, basically. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I understand that, but I don't know. I just think having this deck in the metagame is not good. Like, you know, I just miss I miss losing all the games against St. Texas. Like, I always lost to that deck with Velver, and I kind of miss it right now. You know, just go Planesvile and destroy me with all the Vile creatures. But I prefer that just dying to turn 1 initiative again and again and again.
Yeah, I think people requesting for the banning of like Expressive Iteration and Murktide, I don't know, it feels like too much. I mean, Expressive Iteration is a great card, I understand. But still, like, you gotta give the fair blue deck something, otherwise, you know, Doomsday, it's too good, or, you know, just yeah. I feel like Mystic Sanctuary is the silent sleeper and the strongest card in this blue deck.
Yeah,
that isn't like Brainstorm Force.
Exactly. Also, like, you said something about Doomsday, like, yeah, like, if Delver is the best deck, or like Four Color is the best deck, you know, like, that's, I mean, we're seeing now what happens when an unfair deck is actually the best deck. We're seeing it now. This game is just, the games are just over in turn 1 or whatever. Imagine a world where, you know, Doomsday is the best deck by a lot. Not very cool, also. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else going on in Legacy, actually. Just Initiative and Delvers right now, and we'll see. I mean, someone, you know, might just take a Snuff Out Initiative to the next level and just play Black-White Initiative with a Snuff Out to beat the mirror matches. We'll see. But that's it.
Yeah, not that many swamps in that deck.
I mean, you could play, if you're playing Paper, you can play the 4 drops black and just play Swamp, you know, Initiative into a Swamp, play the Swamp, play Snuff Out, and then bang! You know? So you don't even play, you only need 1. Wink, wink.
Yeah. All right, since that was enough Legacy, let's move to the real format of the people, not the one you talked about before. Pauper. Woo!
Hey!
Huh? We just talked about the format of people. All right, go on though.
I played a tournament in Trieste on Friday. It was supposed to be a little bit larger. It was supposed to have dual lands in prize, but not that many people showed up. Because maybe it was not a format of the people.
Yeah, not that many people in the format of the people. Exactly.
See? Told you.
Go Alchemy.
I guess it was a 45 euro tournament in a format where with 45 euros you usually buy a full deck. So
that is a bit strange. It feels like, you know, the target audience. Yeah, go on anyway.
Yeah, anyway, I played Mono Red. I didn't top 8 despite, you know, again, not that many people in there. Actually, I had a deal with Ultimate Guard that I was giving out a deck box and sleeves to every losses. And I had a lot of losses, so I had to give out a lot of
you were generous.
Ultimate Guard stuff. But actually, the next days I didn't have that many losses, so I used all my swag from all in the day one. Let's just say. But no, I mean, it was cool to play some Pauper and Paper with just real people. Not that on Magic Land are not real. But anyway, there was actually an important announcement this weekend in Pauper. You know how Wizards doesn't really do, you know, daily or like monthly check about their format. They just come up with a ban list out of the blue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Instead, Pauper, they have this panel, which is not, it's like similar to Commander. It's not run by Wizards, but, you know, it's just a bunch of people that, I guess, decide things and then report to Wizards. And Gavin Vere, who also works at Wizards, made this video. It's just like a 20 minutes video. I watched it all. It was definitely interesting. You can find it in the show notes as always. And they were basically saying that they're not going to ban anything because they think that the format is fine. They think that there are 4 decks that are above the rest, which are Affinity, Mono Red, Blue Black Terror, and Coggates. And they think that is enough diverse that it's okay. Like, it could be way less diverse. And, you know, there's obviously like 10 decks behind them, just like it is in Modern. So they think it's fine. And despite a lot of people is calling for bans, like maybe me too with that Monastery Sphere ban, we shouldn't worry and we should just enjoy the format as it is.
Ban? Wow.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think I've mentioned it recently, right?
Okay, I didn't remember. Maybe you did. I'm not sure you did, but okay, now I know.
Yeah, there's like Monster Spirit just makes you feel like you're really playing Modern.
Oh no.
And yeah, like you just go Swift Spear Bolt. Actually, I had the game like that. I was playing against a person that was playing green, which I mean it's kind of unplayable, unfortunately, in Pauper. Maybe also because of this. Yeah, I just feel like if you return to Mono Red being like the classic burn, and I mean you can still go grindy with Experimental Synthesizer and a cool Dota card, but just Swift Spear just ends the game so quickly that you have to build your deck or just your sideboard in a way that it's not fair. But again, what I'm thinking is not what the Pauper format panel sees in their actual datas. So I think it's okay. It's very transparent. I really liked it.
Yeah, they do such a good job. Like,
yeah,
it's amazing.
Exactly. Like, just sharing an article like this should definitely be appreciated by the Pauper players, because this is not something that they owe to anyone. Just like Wizards doesn't show any data.
Yeah, they're doing a good job, right? Just telling they saying things are good because of this reason. That's good props for them.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily the data. I think that's often misleading or misconstrued, but just the level of which they're willing to offer explanations for exactly what they're thinking and doing and what they might do in future, I think it's really, really nice. Like, it's that level of transparency you would never expect from most game developers, right? So I think, I don't know, that's an appeal to Pauper, I think, really. I think that's cool.
Maybe that's why it's a format for the people. Maybe.
Well, it's not, because
especially since there is a set coming out, and I don't know, this new set keep them breaking all the time with like Tolerant Terror or Monster Spear recently and things like that. So I guess you should just wait for the next shake-up, basically.
Well, I mean, I guess it's going to happen nowadays because the commons used to be much weaker than they are, but now that the gap is smaller between commons and non-commons, I guess you should expect Pauper to change more often nowadays. But I mean, I think that's fine. It's fine for Magic to change. That's good. At least that's how I feel.
Sure, for sure. Again, I was really, really happy to see this video. Like, this video made me feel like, okay, my format, or not my format, but this format I enjoy and play is actually followed, and there are people caring about it, and despite a lot of people complain about not taking action, yeah, I think this was a good response to that.
Nice,
yeah.
All right, Carnies, how about we say goodbye to our listeners?
We do. Okay. We can say hello also. But
we'll say hello. We say hello every week.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back next week, and have a good weekend.
Cheers.